स्टार्ट हो गया, चेक कर लो। देख ले क्या इशू आ रहा है।
Presently, we are waiting for 9:30 to start. So,
Right, sir. Right, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some more people, we can say good morning to each other. Now, sir also joined. Now, sir, good morning.
Sir, you are muted.
My microphone is on. Voice is not coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. Muhammad Irshad, Parul Yadav, Bhupendra Gupta also just joined. Pawan Kumar Kuldeep, Neeraj Kumar, Ram Naresh Misra ji, Sandeep Handa, Sandeep Kumar.
Good morning to you.
Very good morning, sir. Yeah, Dr. Sanjay Moite, Satish Kumar, Saurav Agrawal, sir. Just like roll call, writing some names. Many people who have joined: Siddharth, some SB Meher sahab, Sunil Ghore.
Yes, sir.
Many process. Yeah, very good morning, Vinit. Nanakram, very good morning. Where is your friend? Nanakram. Very punctual, and we are also trying to follow with the benchmark that they have established. These standards are there so that we should follow. I'm happy right now 45 people have joined. Okay. So very soon by the starting time 50 plus participants will be there, and during the progression we are expecting all 80-90 participants to be here. Dr. Ansari, our sessions coordinator. Yeah, very good morning. And where is Dr. Junaid? Very good morning. Junaid से join कर लिया आपने? चलिए. HR मीना सर, अशोक पांडे सर. So 9:30 में रोल कॉल लगा ले रहा हूँ. 30 प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट कर देंगे. Very good morning, Vivek Tiwari ji.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, very good morning, Cecil Pradhan.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, also joining. Very good morning. Dr. Pandey, good morning. Gaurav Misra, good morning. So, Ansari ji.
Yes, sir.
Yes. You will take brief time or some disturbance is coming.
You can feel, is it or not?
You start, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
So, session start करेंगे?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, welcome Professor BITS-Pilani. So, he is presently IIT. Okay, he is Professor Department of Mechanical Engineering and Associate Dean is work in integrated human program. He is Associate Dean of the particular department in IIT. That's it. Without I think any further
I will add up just, we are having his presence in our conference also as session chair, recent advances in mechanical engineering. He is also associated with DTU, and we hope our association will continue BITS-Pilani and DTU for further academic enhancement. So from our organizing committee, I think Professor Anil Kumar is in some visit from university. So, and Professor Junior is also busy with some vice chancellor visit in the department. So we will start with the session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor. Yeah, first of all, I thank DTU and Professor Reis and all the organizing members for having given an opportunity to deliver a session on navigation of sexual environment. Which is based on my research. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the contribution from my research colleagues, Mr. Siddhartha and Mr. Vijay Tiwari, who have helped us a lot in preparing these slides based on their research. So with that background, they are also have joined this meeting in time. This presentation will be based on certain important aspects of economics associated with the energy utilization and how is it very important from the environmental perspective. The energy is very, very important for us, but at the same time, we also need to look into the different aspects of economics in generation of electricity. That's going to be the primary interest of my lecture today. And how the electricity is going to be produced in the future, taking into the account the environmental protection as well, based on my own research in the recent time. My details of presentation will go like this. For the audience who probably may be new to this electricity sector, how the electricity energy as a form has grown in a long duration of time, and what is the present generation scenario, and what are all the resources from where we get our electricity from, and what are all the regulations as per the Pollution Control Board norms, and where do we stand as far as the regulation is concerned. More focus will be given in terms of the externalities, which is one of my primary research areas in the recent time. Our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhiji, has told the nature will satisfy the need of the human being, but it cannot satisfy the greed of the human being in terms of the energy care. So, some of the slides which I am presenting now is going to talk about the growth of electricity in Indian scenario. Just to talk about when India got independence in 1947, there were 30 crores of people. I'm sure that most of you may be aware of this status, and where are we now? So for the 30 crores people, if we look back our history, only about 1,360 megawatt was the total installed capacity of electricity power plants, power plant generating electricity in our country. And now this 30 crores have become 135 crores. We can almost say that 4 to 4.5 times growth of the electricity. So if I am trying to figure out where have we reached since India got independence, somewhere in 2020, we have almost reached 3,83,373 megawatts. So if you see the proportion from 1360 megawatt, we have reached 3,83,373 megawatt. You can imagine how many fold rise in the population and how many fold rise in the installed capacity of power plants in our country just taken place over a period of time since independence. And as you could probably see, there is a steep growth from somewhere in 2009 to 2021, where I started taking power plant engineering as a course from 2007. I have been very closely monitoring the electricity scenario in our country. And I started teaching in 2007, 1,37,000 was the total installed capacity. Now, after almost 15 years, it has become 3,83,000, maybe almost 3 times since 2007. So this is probably the trend of electricity generation as of now. In 2021, this is the latest information which we have got from the Ministry of Energy. But where does this electricity come from is very, very important. As of now, as you could see, the coal or lignite as the source of the fuel catering to more than 2 lakh megawatt, that is more than 50%, that is about 53%. So why I am presenting this slide is to make you understand the importance of coal-based thermal power plants in our country. As of now, we cannot say no, because if we say no, that we will be having a huge shortage of electricity. And you know very well what will be the implication of the shortage of electricity in running our country. And the gas, diesel, hydro, nuclear, I'm sorry that there must be a mistake in this nuclear, it's only about 2%. I think there is a small problem with that. So the rest, renewable energy source-based power plant is about 95,656 megawatt of power plant, almost 25,000. So as you can understand that nuclear is only 2%. There is some, different. Yeah, I think the hydro and nuclear are swapped. I'm sorry about that. So the nuclear power plant is 6780, which is hardly 2%, and the hydro power plant is 46,409. That's 12%. So please make a correction. What I am trying to say is, even after so many years of independence, the nuclear power as a source of energy has not probably progressed so well, and it is also very much doubtful that it's going to play a critical role in the future. But as we could probably see, there is a growth in the renewable energy sector. So now my focus of today's session is how do we try to increase the percentage of contribution from renewable energy sources. What are all the roadblocks? How do we overcome? And what actually, to a certain extent, the policy decision the government is expected to take. So in terms of the gigawatt hour, like normally we call kilowatt hour as 1 unit of electricity generation. Whereas the gigawatt hour, as you are aware of, 1 gigawatt of energy continuously being used for 1 hour is going to be gigawatt. In an annual basis, how much is going to be the amount of electricity in gigawatt hour, which is being made to cater to the demand? If I am seeing, then we could see almost 72% of the electricity still comes from the coal-based power plants in our country. So this further reinforces that we cannot dispense with the thermal coal-based power plant in the near future, even though the government is trying its level best to gradually phase out the coal-based power plant. So my focus will be what are all the challenges and how probably we can address this issue from the economic as well as the environmental aspects taking into consideration. So the resources and electricity. So growth of per capita electricity consumption means how much. I think in the very first lecture, Professor Subramaniam did address this. How much is the average Indian citizen consumes electricity and how did it grow over a period of time? We can definitely be proud of where from almost 2000 to 2021, it has increased from about 450 600 units of electricity per year. This is per year per capita electricity consumption. What does that indicates is how much is average units of electricity being consumed by a citizen of our country. As you could see, there is a huge growth, even though the population has been increasing. The installed capacity and the electricity generation is also outperform the population growth, and then we could definitely get much higher per capita energy consumption. But where are we? In fact, this figure is from 2018. That's why there is a small difference between this slide, where it is showing more than 1,200 units per year, and it is only 1149 per year. That is the growth from 2018 to 2021. So this is from IEA, where do we stand when compared to Canada, US, Japan? I'm sure most of you must be aware of an average Indian citizen consumes about 1,150 units of electricity per year. But this again is an average out figure where the consumption pattern of an Indian citizen, like 80-20 policy, what does that say is 80% of electricity is consumed by 20% of the population, and remaining 20% of the electricity is consumed by 80%. In the sense, there are people who can afford to consume larger amount of electricity by affordability, whereas there are still people who cannot afford. So, but electricity pricing is becoming one of the important aspects to be addressed. So, having told this, we will probably be not able to compare ourselves with Canada because the climatic condition there and the cold winters and all needs a lot of electricity consumption. But definitely, as it was also told in one of the previous sessions, that per capita electricity consumption is one of the economic indicators of the developing countries. So, so as we have so far discussed what was the past and present scenario, and where do we need to go in the future becomes an important aspect. So, as of now, when somewhere in 2021, we have seen almost 383,000 megawatt of electricity is required. But when we try to predict how much is going to be the future installed capacity, it may go up to almost 8 lakhs megawatt by 2030. So what that indicates is, as of now we are 4 lakhs in 2021, and then we need to go up to 8 lakhs in 2030, meaning we have to almost double our installed capacity if we want to meet our future electricity demand. On one side, the resources to generate electricity is dwindling. On the other side, the demand for electricity is continuously increasing. As you must be knowing that new flats, new industries, new expansion projects, when it is coming, it all going to load on the electricity consumption head. So, how are we going to meet this increase in the demand is going to be a major challenge in front of the community for us. So, as we have seen that the primarily Indian power sector relies on coal, and I will be focusing from the environmental perspective. So the coal-based electricity is considered. All of us are aware that it is not so eco-friendly. It's dirty, and as we know that I have visited some of the coal mines, the people who are working there is really having a very, very tough time. And you may be aware of recently, maybe a few years back in the northeastern state, the coal mines, the people were trapped, and also in China, we very frequently come across the problem. So the mining of the coal itself is a very, very difficult task. And I am only worried that almost 1.2 billion hectares of forest land is going to be the source of the coal if we are going to destroy everything to cater to our power demand. I think the tiger will become a future dinosaur. So that's going to be an important environmental problem. How are we going to address? So just for the information sake, a 500 megawatt power plant will almost produce 10,000 tons of sulfur dioxide, 10,200 tons of nitrogen oxide, and 3.7 million tons of carbon dioxide. Of course, it all depends upon the composition of the coal. So, the coal-based power plant as of now, even though catering to the predominant electricity demand, is probably not an eco-friendly way of meeting the demand, but still being into the problem. So, what are the problems? So, the thermal power plant in India emits about 1646 million tons of carbon dioxide in India. So, but of course, we do save reason like India is the third largest producer of carbon dioxide, followed by US and China. But that doesn't really is going to help us to defend. Of course, we do understand the problem of our country and the population, but as the global warming, greenhouse gases emission, how much of an environmental impact does it have is one of the studies in a different form I have been trying to do. So the thermal power plants, so this particular slide talks about, I'm sorry, this mg is milligram, the m should be in small liters per normal meter cube, is the unit which is being used here. The Environmental Pollution Control Board has stipulated certain guidelines as far as the operation of the coal-based thermal power plants are concerned. That is suggested by Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change, and new emission norms for the thermal power plant. In fact, earlier the standards for particulate matter was defined, but sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and mercury level was not very much defined early. But later in 2015, the government has implemented or suggested, not implemented, sorry, certain norms for the emissions, which is coming from this power plant. I'm sure that some of you or most of you may be aware of it. That is in terms of the particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, that is the mercury level. How much should be there in in terms of milligram per normal meter cube is permissible. So, as we know, of course, the carbon dioxide is not listed here because there is, as of now, no emission norms prescribed for the carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide capture and storage still is a very, very costly affair. So if we try doing it, the cost of electricity will shoot up to a very high value. So that has still not been implemented or suggested as a norm. But sulfur dioxide is one of the very important emissions from the power plant. There are certain regulations which has been given for the sulfur dioxide called flue gas desulfurization. So FGDs, which you may be normally aware of, is the unit which is installed in a power plant to absorb sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is considered to be very harmful from the viewpoint of the local problem is concerned, because carbon dioxide is a universal problem. It goes to the atmosphere and then results in the greenhouse gas and the global warming, which is known to most of us. But the sulfur dioxide emission is considered to be harmful to the people who are living nearby. So my intention was, there are two aspects too which I would like to bring in as a part of economics. One way of economics of power generation, if you read any textbook which talks about the fixed cost and the variable cost. So what do I mean by that is like, is there any doubt in between? You can please feel free to unmute and then ask. Professor Amit, can I continue or is there some doubts? Should I clarify in between?
You continue, sir, please.
No, thank you.
If you want in between, you can ask in between to the participants, or if you are convenient at the end, it is up to you.
So I think let them please note down the questions. I will try to address it at the end so that the flow cannot be.
So at the last, we will take all together all questions.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
Really good. Yes, in the end, it will be taken. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So there are two versions of the cost of electricity generation. What is electricity generation cost is, I normally conduct a case study with my students who I teach power plant engineering. How much is the cost of installing 1 megawatt of coal-based power plant, which is about 5 to 6 crore per megawatt? So if a 1000 megawatt power plant, the installation cost will be around 6,000 crores. And also the operation cost in terms of the fuel, operation and maintenance, labor, and all other aspects put together, we arrive at a cost that's purely from an economist version. The economist doesn't too much worry about the cost of polluting the environment by releasing the carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter. But I was a little concerned. If I am generating, but of course there are so many approaches for solving this problem. What is the approach I have taken up is called an external cost. What do you define as an externality or external cost is, when the product is produced, how that product is causing the impact on the observer or the general public who are living nearby. That is what we call as an external cost. So, European Union has developed a very nice approach known as extern E. What is extern E is, instead of only talking about the fixed cost and the variable cost term, which is purely from an economist version, can we quantify the impact of releasing sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, particulate matter to the environment, and then try to bring it as a part of a cost called internalizing the external cost. What do I mean by that is, instead of only talking in terms of the fixed cost and the variable cost associated with the power generation, which is normally called LCOE. LCOE, I'm sure most of you must be aware of, levelized cost of electricity generation. Meaning, how much does it take for generating 1 unit of electricity? I do have a slide. I'll come to this slide little later. So this is the normal levelized cost of electricity generation, which is taken from Wind Outlook in 2022 GEWC report. So as of now, the solar, that is PV based solar power generation, cost about 2.7 to 3.2 rupees per unit of electricity generation. Whereas the wind cost about 2.8 to 3.2, but of course the coal, sometimes it is about 2 rupees, 2.5 rupees, 3 rupees, but all is highly fluctuating. But the coal-based electricity generation as of now cost about 3.6, 4.3 or 5.7, depending upon the type of the coal. As probably you may be aware of, the quick head power plants are those power plants located near coal mines, like Neyveli has its own coal mine catering to the lignite requirement of the thermal power plant. Similarly, we have a power plant in NTPC Ramagunda, where Singareni collieries supply the coal. So the cost of generation of electricity from those power plants are relatively cheaper because the coal transportation cost is less. So this particular levelized cost of electricity, which is very popular term which we use in electricity scenario, is arrived based on the fixed cost and the variable cost only from an economist perspective. But if we are trying to, I am coming back to this slide, what do we mean by externalities is the damage to the physical assets, loss of human life and death, loss of quality of life and loss of normal function. So what that indicates is, if this is given in terms of euros cent per kilowatt hour, but I have done my own research. I have tried applying the concept of extern E for an Indian scenario, which I will be talking about that in detail. So when we try accounting for such a type of externality in the power generation process, then the green tax, the carbon tax, so many terms are used, but this is a different approach which probably I can have a humble beginning saying that how do we apply the external E model to the Indian power plant is, maybe I have done some of preliminary work, but I could see 1 or 2 more publications in this regard recently. So that's the reason I was very particular to address this audience, how we can bring in the concept of the external E as a part of cost associated with what we call as environmental impact on the process of power generation. So this is the damage cost in terms of euros cent per kilowatt hour. How much does it cost? Is 0.75, 1.01 is a 2003 figure which is taken from external E. So, as we know that when the market failure happens, when the price mechanism fails to allocate scarce resources efficiently, leading to net social welfare loss. So, as of now, of course, Delhi started already feeling the pinch of the air pollution because of the vehicle, and even though pandemic is not very much welcome, but during the pandemic days, the Delhi business a very clear sky, the people very much be aware of. So, with the view to consume more amount of energy, we are already trying to have an impact on the environment. So, how do we try addressing this issue is to a certain extent the model which I am proposing, but I am definitely sure nobody may buy this idea as of now because the electricity pricing is highly sensitive. Even maybe I do have a situation where 0.5 rupees increase in the unit of electricity consumption in the commercial industries has shut down some of the industries in one state, and it has helped in very rapid growth of the products produced in another state in our own country. I don't want to name the state because, of course, we do also know the purchase power capacity of the people. We try adding this external cost and then say that your electricity tariff has gone from 3 rupees to 6 rupees, 7 rupees. That's going to have a very, very huge implications on the country's economy as well as the societal problem. But while we talk in terms of the levelized cost of electricity generation, since we are addressing the role of renewable energy sources in Indian security, my prime purpose of delivering this session is since most of the renewable energy based power generations are not taking up to a great extent because the people looked at the cost of electricity generation, bearing, of course, solar PV, which has become very, very cheap nowadays. That's the reason why we have a very, very rapid growth of solar PV. But of course, thermal energy storage and electricity storage becomes an issue. So, what I wanted to address is, can we try viewing from the policy maker's perspective instead of looking only from an economist version? Can we also look from an environmentalist version where the actual cost of electricity generation, taking into consideration the environmental impact, is called internalizing the external cost. That's what is the work which I have taken up. As of now, as you could probably see, the average solar auction price, one good thing about the renewable energy is drastically coming down. But as you could, one of the advantages as we see from the economist perspective is the cost of NTPC tariff almost is flat for a long duration of time. Meaning that the fluctuation of the cost of the coal-based power plant as of now from an economist version is flat. But as I have already talked about, external E is a methodology and of course calculating environmental external cost, as I have already told about external E. So the external is a very, very detailed document. It's so nice to read it. How do we interpret the environmental impact of any process of electricity generation or the transport or whatever the energy system is concerned with? It addresses mortality, morbidity, building material, crops, global warming, amenity loss, ecosystem and land usage. So this is the work which I thought that I will reach out to a larger audience to explain its importance, internalizing the external cost of gaseous and particulate matter. Emission from coal-based thermal power plant is very recent publication where I did try understanding how do we try to monetize the environmental damage of power generation in coal-based thermal power plants, so that we will try to compare this is the cost of power generation from an economist version, and I add the environmental impact in terms of the cost, so that this is going to be the cost of coal-based power plant, which is otherwise considered to be cheaper. In fact, that becomes a barrier because of which the renewable sector is not growing. Because we always try to compare the cost of electricity, but as I have already told, it's a difficult thing to digest, because the people purchasing power and the economy, social implications, so many things comes into the picture. But if I am trying to understand how much is the actual cost of power generation, bringing in the environmental damage, then that's going to be a policy of a government. Then it will definitely try to shift the focus from coal-based, which is catering to almost 53% of an installed capacity, or 72% of the electricity generated, towards the renewable energy sector. So that view still has not come. So in our work, we have taken the purchase power parity of Indian citizens, willingness to pay, and the population itself. So just to present, in fact, this is a part of the work which I have published in the the driver and transfer journal. The external cost of emission per unit of electricity generation in different years, 2020, 2025, and 2030. How does it vary based on sulfur dioxide emission, NOx emission is shown. So how do we interpret? In fact, we have taken the whole composition of the coal which is used in the different power plants of our state. So the Odisha, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, as you could probably see in 2020, how do we interpret the external cost from sulfur dioxide emission itself is about say 1.75 rupees in 2020, and then it will go up to almost 4 rupees by 2025, and it will exceed about 6.7 rupees by 2030. So this is taking into consideration the inflation rate and the purchase power parity of the population. Similarly, the nitrogen oxide emission is also taken into consideration. So, what I am trying to make you understand is the actual cost of production of electricity per unit should be whatever your fixed cost, variable cost combination plus almost 7 rupees I need to add by 2030 if I want to understand the impact of environmental damage of releasing sulfur dioxide. So this is about the NOx emission. We have talked about the particulate matter emission as well as the carbon dioxide emission. So if I am trying to combine all the environmental impact also as a part of the cost, then the total external cost of coal-based electricity generation, how it is going to vary from 2020. That's now already the total cost is near about 7 rupees, and then they may go up to almost 12 rupees. So this you may please compare with actually the cost of coal-based without external cost is shown here. That is about 3 rupees, as I have already told. So the actual economist version of cost of electricity is about 3 rupees. But if I take the environmental impact also into account, that's about 7 rupees. The real cost of electricity by 2030 per unit may reach up to 12 rupees, but by 2030, if I don't consider that, still it will be at about 4 rupees. So, why I am saying this again, I would like to re-emphasize is that if we try understanding the cost of electricity generation by taking into consideration the environment impact, the 2030 is already 12 rupees. A solar thermal power plant, which is going to be very costly. Even now we say that per unit is about 14 rupees, 15 rupees, 16 rupees per unit. So if we see in India, we don't have a solar thermal based power plant. But of course, we are very, very rapidly expanding the solar PV. I am not against solar PV, but I will come to and talk to the detail later. But the flue gas desulfurization is, I probably may not spend too much of a time in this slide, but I just wanted to highlight. In 2015, they have given time for all the thermal power plants to install flue gas desulfurization unit, because as I told, sulfur dioxide emission has the local impact, where the carbon dioxide emission has a global impact. So the local impact becomes much more a serious concern. So what happens is the pollution control board norms wanted all the power plants to install FGDs. But unfortunately, the timeline given for an FGD installation has not been adhered to. As of now, only about 2% of the power plants generating electricity from coal could install FGDs. That too because they are located in a very, very thickly populated places. Like NTPC Dadri has an FGD unit, and I have visited Tata Power in Mumbai as an FGD unit. But now the extension was given to install FGD because it also becomes a problem from the cost perspective. If FGD is installed, the installation cost, operating cost, everything will be added to the cost of power generation. Then the economy, profitability of the power plant becomes a big issue. So due to lack of time, I may not probably be able to spend much time. This is my recent work which I am working on. So there are different methods of the technologies used in flue gas desulfurization. It is in terms of the removal efficiency, how much is the auxiliary power requirement, how much is the fresh water. There is a comparison of the different technologies which is meant for absorbing the sulfur dioxide, where we have just completed a research work, myself and my scholar, Mr. Siddhartha, where how do we try arriving at the penetration of flue gas desulfurization unit, and what energy policy measures the government has to bring in. This is something which we are presently working on. So this is again talking about how much is the cost aspect of installing the different flue gas desulfurization technologies, how much is the capital cost, how much is operation and maintenance cost, and how much is the reagent cost need to be spent for installing. Why I am saying this is, by installing FGDs, it is possible to reduce the external cost associated with the emission of SO2, and also it's going to protect the population living nearby the coal-based thermal power plants, and it's going to help us to bring down the impact. Like sulfur dioxide emission is considered to be much more harmful for the local population in terms of what we call as the health, morbidity, and the natural resources aspect. So maybe another 5-10 minutes I will take before taking up the question. So I do like renewable energy, but very alarming rate with the solar photovoltaic cell, because I have published another paper where how do we improve these efficiency of solar PV cell by cooling. That is called, I'm sure some of you must be aware of, PV cell efficiency doesn't directly increase with increase of the temperature, where they need to cool it down. So how do we improve the efficiency of the solar PVs? By cooling the PV panel is one of my research work. But as you could probably see, this has become a potential alternate. But of course, we do have to have energy storage, fuel system, and a huge capacity battery stored energy is unaffordable. So there are certain issues with energy storage. Of course, my another scholar, Mr. Vivek, is also attending this session. We are working on how do we try to minimize the cost of storage and retrieval of thermal energy by using high temperature thermal energy storage system. So why I am saying that the solar PV is eco-friendly is a very big question. What does that indicates? I will just try to figure out, like the average lifespan of solar PV cell is about 25 years. And you could imagine if I have say 100 megawatt of power from solar PV, after maybe the lifetime, it has to be disposed of. So I am really worried, or in general, the people are worried. Why? Because if such a huge mass of solar PV is going to be becoming a waste, how to get it disposed of, especially which is made of poisonous substances like arsenic, gallium arsenide being there as the sort of photovoltaic material, which is going to harm the environment. So while it is as of now being treated as a renewable energy, no doubt it's not going to harm the environment. There is no going to be much larger damage to the environment. But instead of facing the problem now, we are just postponing it to a later stage. And of course, in Europe, if you see the literature, they already started working on how do we recycle the solar PV cell. And of course, as you also can see in the Asia Pacific, also it is a small market, but at least in India, we do not still have a very clear-cut policy of how to get this disposed of. So while I am very much for the renewable energy, also we need to worry about the environmental impact which may happen in the future to come. So in one of the areas where probably people are researching is how we can try increasing the efficiency of the solar thermal system as a renewable energy. For the meeting our power demand along with the solar thermal storage system can probably make the energy cost cheaper in the future when we try comparing the external cost added to the thermal power plant and the actual storage cost and the running of the solar thermal power plant, then it may become much more cheaper in the future. So that is only a policy decision the government has to take, aggressively trying to promote the research in terms of exploiting solar, because I don't have much of a time to talk about the wind or the other types of the resources to meet our future demand of 8 lakh megawatt because of its own restrictions. Because the wind depends on highly depending upon the availability of the wind, and as you know, all the locations in our country may not be suitable to install windmill power plants. So these are all certain things, but it becomes very important how do we try achieving the target of 8 lakhs. So if we wanted to do that, one of the research which we are presently doing at BITS-Pilani is, can we try developing a high temperature solar thermal system so that the efficiency, when it increases, the cost of generation of electricity will come down. I may request the audience who are sitting and listening to me, trying to explore the possibility of doing research in solar thermal system, which may become much more very, very feasible technology to meet our power demand. What are the issues as of now from the solar thermal system is levelized cost of electricity needs to be reduced, because as of now the cost of solar energy for the thermal based power generation is exorbitantly high. Even if you talk about solar tower or parabolic drive, of course the flat plate collector cannot go to a very high temperature, as we are aware of. High temperature material, as of now we are working on aluminum silicon alloy, which is considered to be one of the potential material for high temperature energy storage. Mr. Vivek, who is also my scholar, sitting and listening to us, he is working on aluminum silicon, able to make the solar technology possible for high temperature. As we are aware of, the efficiency will increase and the cost will come down. So that's one of the areas where I personally feel that the researchers like us should try to focus if that's of their interest. And the external cost need to be considered in the implementation. So when will we make the solar thermal system? It's my own view. Of course, everybody has their view. Much more commercially implementable is trying to compare it with the already ready available power plant, that is coal-based thermal power plant. If I am trying to add the external cost, then that goes up to 12 rupees, 13 rupees. And then if the solar thermal cost comes about 10 rupees, 9 rupees, 8 rupees, then we will definitely try figuring out the solar thermal can be an eco-friendly technology for meeting the huge power demand in the future. This is, of course, the people are already working, and over a period of time, already the levelized cost of electricity central solar power plant is reducing. I just would like to conclude, need to take a strong policy decision for accelerating the renewable energy, research to make the renewable energy cheaper. We have to, on the other side, we have to have a conservation measure and integrated energy resource planning and the decentralized power generation probably can be the future option. Thank you so much for the opportunity which has been given to me. I have deliberately stopped about 10:25 to take up any questions which may arise so that I stick to my time. And again, I thank Professor Ravi for having me.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Mayank Pandey from Harvard Institute of Technology.
Yes.
I got one question. This solar power is being installed in our rooftop PV power, solar power system. No doubt, the electricity bill came down to very appreciable value. Definitely. Yes. But so far as other renewable sources are concerned, like ODEC, like tidal power, and all other things, we are investing money, but the net outcome will be very less, negligible.
Yes.
So let me just bring some light for it.
Yes. Yes. So, it's a very, very important point. I personally know that most of thermal energy conversion concept was running in Kudasekharapattinam in Tamil Nadu, but in 1992, I remember, where at that time the cost of 1 megawatt power plant was 1 crore rupees. IIT Madras has initiated the process of feasibility, economic viability, but still the project is not implemented because of the efficiency is very low, and then the cost of electricity generation was considered to be very high. So that's the reason. Yes, sir, your question is very much valid, but as of now, at least in India, we have not explored all these options because of number one, the efficiency and operation and LCOE is tremendously high, and I am not sure whether it will be economically viable to implement. That's the reason why my focus to me what will be the future energy demand is definitely solar by making it more convenient to store it and then utilize it. So unfortunately, the geothermal, ocean thermal technologies has not at all taken up in our country. Yes. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So
Anand Tembulkar is one question.
Yes.
Anand?
Yes, sir. I am Anand Tembulkar.
Yes.
Sir, may I ask one question? And that is not in the form of question, but it is congratulatory. I have heard after a long time about solar thermal energy, because mostly we hear about solar photovoltaic energy in India, and after a long time I have heard about solar thermal. So my query is, solar thermal power plant is not in India, anywhere in the world. So that is in the order of 2 or 3% efficiency when working with methyl chloride and butane, and working temperature is 90 degrees, which is so low. Because you talked about 400 degrees centigrade, that is quite good. If we achieve that, will be very beneficial, because 2 or 3% overall efficiency will be very disheartening in India, sir. Because in India we are achieving roughly 20% efficiency in case of solar photovoltaic energy. So why we will consider for 2 or 3% in case of solar thermal energy? So yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. So sir, it's very correct. Where solar flat plate based power generation, maximum temperature attainable is only about 80-90 degrees Celsius. So there is no any possibility of further increase. But one advantage of flat plate based power generation is it's passive and operating cost is less. But of course, we need to live with a lower efficiency. But the solar concept which have come now can limit even up to a 540 degrees Celsius of operating temperature on par with coal-based power plant. But the coal-based power plant now has increased the operating temperature to 600 degrees Celsius. So what I am trying to say is we need to aggressively improve our research to increase the operating temperature of solar thermal. Only then it will be feasible for commercialization. That is the reason why. Yes, sir. Your question is very good. So, do go lesson.
Yes, now speak.
Sir, I am Hemant Raj. I am working in a waste management sector for the powerhouses, coal-based powerhouses, with the recent regulations on ash utilization.
Yes.
When you have given such a beautiful presentation on the external cost, have we taken into consideration that all the coal plants have to provide up to 300 kilometer free supply of your ash, whatever they are producing, fly ash and bottom ash both. Now the cost which also is added up into the per megawatt thing, that also should be considered. This is my just thing. And second, sir, for solar, what are you advising on the waste which will come after its end of life? What are the kind of treatment and what are you are encouraging the cost of the treatment of the solar panels as well? End of life.
Yes. So that's what I told, that the cycle, life cycle of a solar PV cell about 25 years, and then generation of the players, how to get it disposed of is the major challenge. But one of the advantages for a thermal system is it's not going to be so much eco-unfriendly even after getting it aged beyond the lifetime. So disposal will not be a problem. So that's one of the concerns which I personally would like to understand, that what is the strategy all the energy related researchers are going to take up in getting this PV cell disposed. As of now, unfortunately, we don't have a policy of PV cell safe disposal to protect our environment. I am only worried that will that become one more polythene bag which is going to be causing the environment. That's the reason why we have been focusing on the solar. I already exceeded the time limit.
Thank you, sir. Now, last question we will be taking from SP Meher.
Yes.
What you have to ask? This is the last question.
Sure.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I am S.P. Meher from Arjabad Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I will thank you very much for providing such very important information about non-renewable energy. So, I have two questions about the economics of generation. So, my first question is, government is providing subsidy to non-renewable energy and also some other sector like agriculture and some lower strata consumers. So, what will be the impact of subsidy on economics of generation? My second question is, we have seen that the different power plant has different type of generation voltage. So, what is the impact of generation voltage on economics of generation?
Generation gold. Okay. First question is subsidy on economics. Yes, it's a very important question. So the subsidy is extended by the government to promote the renewable energy. Of course, the loans are given at a very interest-free loan also is sometimes available, and that's definitely going to promote the renewable energy because there is no subsidy for the conventional coal-based power plant. In fact, they have to pay a huge percentage of interest. So, from the economics perspective, yes, the subsidy and the tax holidays will reduce the cost of electricity generation, and then it is going to promote the renewable energy registration. Okay? That is good to promote the renewable energy. But still, the doubt still is there whether the subsidies which is going to be given and how to make a reliable power from the renewable sector is still a very big question from all the moods and thoughts. And also the people are talking about electric vehicles. If the electric vehicles come to the market, again the total demand for electricity is going to go up unless and until we explore a renewable energy sector. So to answer the first question, the subsidy is going to help from an economics perspective to promote the renewable energy. As far as the voltage fluctuation is concerned, I am sorry that I may not be the right person, but I assume the quality of the power is ensured from the generations, right? So I have not done a study on the voltage fluctuation.
We thank all the participants. We have some limited time, so Dr. Srinivasan will be here.
Sure.
Later on also you may utilize some of the time if whenever we are having free time. Now Dr. Ashok Kumar has joined us. Yes, Dr. Ashok Kumar. Yeah, very good morning. So Dr. Saab is here. Dr. Ashok Kumar, my old friend, long relationship we have. So Dr. Ashok Kumar, let me introduce. He is working as Deputy Director General at Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which is working under the Ministry of Power, Government of India. So he is primarily involved in the implementation of National Mission on Enhanced Energy Efficiency. As we are talking about the quality of energy, as we are talking about the emissions in the power generation or the transportation, so it is very important to enhance the energy efficiency. As we know, any energy saved or money saved is money generated or energy generated. So this is very important aspect on which he is working, and it is a component of National Action Plan for Climate Change of India. In addition to other responsibilities under the mission, he is involved in the coordination of PAT, Perform, Achieve and Trade, the flagship program under the mission, which involves development of energy consumption norms and standards for energy-intensive industrial sectors. He also heads the R&D related activities of Bureau of Energy Efficiency for the accelerated market transformation for energy efficient appliances. He is also working on the climate change activities at BE and has participated in COP meeting of UNFCCC, BRICS and other international forums. Prior to joining BEE, he was working in design and development of high-field superconducting magnets and local environmental control devices as a scientist at NPL. He holds 2 patents for local environmental control devices. He also worked with Energy Coordination Agency, Philadelphia, USA, an organization that helps to conserve energy and promote sustainable and socially equitable energy future in the Philadelphia region. Dr. Ashok Kumar holds a PhD degree from Center for Energy and Environment Policy, University of Delaware, USA, in Energy and Environmental Policy with a specialization in energy economics. He carries degree in Master of Technology in Energy Studies and BTech from Mechanical Engineering, both from IIT Delhi. So we welcome Dr. Ashok Kumar. Most of the experts we are having from academia side, so he will be representing some of the policies from government's initiatives. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Professor Amit Pal. I'll just switch to another system because this is not working. Just give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, continue.
Just I will log.
So most of the time we find difficult to get the timing, scheduling of the expert from government or industries because of the mostly their schedule are so busy. But because program being online, it is convenient, and Dr. Ashok Kumar is always supporting for me in other programs as well. So please enjoy this opportunity. Yes, sir, it has come.
Yes, sir. Sir, गुलाम मुस्तफा बोल रहा हूँ सर. उसके बारे में देखना पढ़ना पड़ेगा मुझे. प्रोडक्शन से मेरा नहीं है सर. हाँ.
See the slide?
Yes, slides are also visible. You may start.
Thank you, Professor, for the invitation, and good morning to all. I hope my audio is all right. Hello.
Yes, sir. It is well in order.
Okay, thank you. So it is a privilege for me to interact with highly academically, people who are involved in high level of all the detailed scientific and technological research. So my presentation would be broad policies and possibly what it results into from the discussion that Dr. Srinivasan, Professor, has told about in the earlier analysis of cost and economics of the whole energy pertaining to conventional as well as the renewables. So I will mostly discuss on the policies of the government from the energy efficiency side and how that energy efficiency activities are giving the benefits towards securing our energy requirement, and what is the magnitude or the potential or the promise of the energy efficiency whole energy discussions. So I'll just put all of you into a context that all of you are aware that things or the surrounding or the environment where we are today is facing certain difficulties in terms of its own maintaining its own cycles, its own rhythm. And this is a picture which was taken not long ago in 2017 that a piece of iceberg from Antarctic Peninsula. It was of the size of around 4 times the size of Delhi. That just parted away from the bigger Antarctic piece into the larger ocean space in the water space. So that is, and also recently there was again similar kind of a news, but I could not capture the pictures to show you. So these are now becoming very frequent, that unprecedented events of parting away of such a big piece of ice which has been there for centuries, and suddenly they are changing their course or they're changing their position because of some events that are happening unprecedented so far. So that is, too far in the southern pole. Now you will see that in very close to our own neighborhood, if you see on the glaciers in the Himalayas, there's the pictures tells that the glaciers are receding at about 27 meters a year. So the whole population of the Gangetic belt, for which the drinking water, irrigation water, everything comes from these places. So the water sources are kind of diminishing at an alarming rate. And these are very bare facts that are happening just before our eyes. So in such a situation, the issues for us is manifold. For a country of 1.3 billion, and of that around 20-30% of the population who are yet to understand the basics of energy that we are talking about, how that is produced, used and disposed, and the challenge of space that the Earth's construction itself poses on us because of its capacity to hold whatever is being emitted from our usage of resources. That limits us to use the way in a different way than what it has been in the past. And at the same time, we have the issue of resource itself getting exhausted. Many of the resources which have pulled the growth of engines to this extent are diminishing. Fossil fuel based resources are on the decline now, or they are becoming uneconomical to harness for our useful usage. And on a larger context, some study in the picture, if you see, that it indicates that on the resource consumption side, we have already consumed the earth that we have. So we are outstretching the consumption toward against what is possible from the natural resources within this boundary of whatever the blue planet can give us. So that is the challenge for us, and in our context, we also need to grow. We need to provide basic necessities to millions of people. And if you see in the energy consumption space, the per capita energy consumption of our compared to many of the countries, we are very, very bottom line, much below than many of the, say, middle income countries as well. Turkey, Brazil, they are even bigger than, consuming more than our per capita consumption. So that is where we are, and it has also been seen that the level of energy consumption is very significantly linked to the Human Development Index. So you have better Human Development Index if you are consuming more energy. So that is one aspect to it, but of course those are currently being seen as a decoupled from those discourses. But certainly there is a initial correlation with the development and the energy consumption, which gives you tremendous change in the level of or the living standard. So, however, the good point or the future looks different in different contexts. For example, if you see in this picture, the black line shows the primary energy demand and the blue line shows the GDP growth. So in developed economies, you would see that energy consumption, primary energy demand is coming slowly down. However, the GDP keeps on growing. So the relation that we saw in the first picture, to a certain extent, is getting decoupled. And also the good news is that the energy intensity is also coming down rapidly or quite significantly in the European Union, European countries, as well as in United States. However, in countries like ours, you would see that the linkage is still strong with the black and blue. However, in China, you would see little flattening happening. Of course, India, if you go past these timelines, possibly it will flatten. So the point where we want to is that we want to decouple this linkage, and also we want to come down. The green line should be dropping very fast, so that we are living on the earth very lightly, particularly in the space of energy consumption. So in that context, many of you know that in 2015, the government of India and the rest of the countries, around 195 or so countries, agreed in Paris to commit to restrict the global temperature rise to 2 degrees centigrade, if possible 1.5 degrees centigrade. So in that global commitment, country also committed that we would reduce our emission intensity of GDP by 33 to 35% from 2005 level by the year 2030. So 2030 is the timeline for the Paris Agreement's results or the evaluation. And also to achieve 40% cumulative electric power from non-fossil fuel energy. As you know, the discussion of today, renewable energy that has to pitch in different forms, thermal or here it is just talking about the electric power source. And to create a carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 into the additional forest, so that we can contribute to the larger global cause of arresting the temperature to 2 degrees centigrade. So the 2 degrees centigrade, you know, this is the limit that is to go put on by the carbon concentration in the atmosphere. So the IA analysis in this picture shows the Indian scenario, where, you know, if we want to be at the sustainable or where the situation or where the natural cycles keep on repeating, monsoons keep on hitting the Kerala coast on 1st of June and reaches Delhi by, you know, beginning of July, and they do not take rest as it is now doing. So then we need to be at the green line at the bottom, and where then by 2035 country would only have a space of emitting about 2.3 gigatons. But the projection as business as usual, it seems that we would have emitted around 4.1 gigaton by that time. So how to come down from 4.1 to 2.3? So the studies tell us in that the biggest share can come from energy efficiency. So energy efficiency has a huge promise, particularly in a country like ours, where we have a huge bandwidth of energy usage across the sectors. Some are very good, some are very bad. So how we can tighten up our homes in order, and so that we use the resources very judiciously. So this is the larger picture where it gives us the promise of energy efficiency. So many of you also know that Bureau of Energy Efficiency under the Ministry of Power, the Government of India has instituted a dedicated agency which looks into the energy efficiency measures all across the country. And we have few following mandates, where the mandates are, you can say, gets the power from the Energy Conservation Act. So also India is one of few countries that we have Energy Conservation Act, a statute dedicated for energy conservation and institution dedicated for that purpose. And that is where, the structurally, and Just to give you some of the measures that India takes into the energy efficiency space is many of you know your home ACs, refrigerators, distribution transformers, LED bulbs are labeled. So that is labeled to inform the consumer to make an informed choice that the efficient appliances can save your electricity, contributing energy conservation. So these appliances, in total 28 appliances are identified. Of that, 10 appliances under the mandatory regime. It means that in the Indian market, these products cannot be sold without mandatory labeling. However, in the voluntary also, many consumers are now very sensitive to energy efficiency, so they ask for the labels in the appliances that are listed, and even they are asking for other appliances, energy consuming appliances, so that they can have assessment of the energy performance. So these are the labels that you have seen, giving you the details of the performance of the appliances that you buy. And efficiency's promise has also been demonstrated by, one program called Ujala that has, I think, touched all of us. It started in 2015. It was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister. And that was a replacement of old incandescent bulbs or the CFLs with LEDs or LEDs of equivalent lumens. So for example, 60 watt bulb and say 11, 12 or 15 watt CFLs was replaced by 7 to 9 watt LED bulbs, giving lumen of equivalent around 700, 800 lumens. So now just from changing from the incandescent bulb of 60 watt to a 9 watt, you get a 51 watt saving per unit of bulb that you change. And these actions do not have any gestation period. You can do it right away. So this has unprecedented impact on our energy, you can say, efficiency activity. And more than 36 crores of LEDs have been distributed under this program. And also, if you look at what impact it made on the overall price of the LED bulbs, the bulb which was being sold around 300 in say 2014 the price came down to 39 rupees in 2017 through aggregated purchase of energy services, E-Energies Efficiency Services Limited, a company under the Ministry of Power. So this is the promise of energy efficiency, and now you can see in the market that the LED bulbs are at affordable price, that not even people are looking for any kind of a concession. If earlier it was given on some concessional rate that every household was given 4 bulbs or so, but now the whole market itself has taken off. So it is estimated that around the double of this number that has been sold under the program has been sold on the market on its own. So then, on the efficiency space, the government has several building codes that has been developed and that has been given to the states, because buildings come under the states program. So states then notifies and pushes down to the municipal bylaws, and then all buildings that gets certificate for construction has to be certified on these parameters also. So you would see several states have already notified, and they are in process of putting into the bylaws of the municipalities to improve or have buildings of different categories who are lighter in energy consumption, design better, using passive aspects of it, using natural systems to light, heat, cool. So in that process, we a process has also been given that we have made a distinction of states who have done amount of energy saving through energy efficiency activities, and they are given certain ranks and then recognition on that. So on the industrial efficiency side, there is a dedicated mission under the National Action Plan on Climate Change that was brought out in 2008. So this efficiency mission is primarily looking into the activities of energy efficiency in industries, and more specifically in the energy intensive industries. So energy intensive industries. So there is a program called PAC, Perform, Achieve and Trade, which is a program built under the regulatory mandate of the Energy Conservation Act, and it also has a market component associated where whatever excess energy is saved by these industries under the schemes get energy saving certificates that can be traded into power exchanges, and they can earn money out of those certificates. And also under this mission, there were several financial and other capacity building components to help this particular program, and other ancillary programs like Ujala and other R&D related programs we call super efficient equipment program, to support those activities and to lift the whole sector to a higher efficiency level. So the Perform, Achieve and Trade scheme, which was for 8 energy intensive sectors, including cement, iron, steel, fertilizer, pulp and paper, textile, thermal power plant, was started in 2012 and ended in 2015. What I'm showing is that in the 3-year cycle of the operation of cycle 1, this is the number of benefits that that particular program has given. So the total of 8.67 million tons of oil equivalent was saved from this program, and which translates into avoiding 31 million tons of CO2 emissions. So which is about 2% of the total energy, the total CO2 emission that the country has done in that time period, 14-15. And also the core benefits of it is that it has given opportunities for engineers, operators to understand energy efficiency activities, benefits of it, and also help in the energy professionals to get involved and also get engaged in the energy efficiency activities, either in their plants or units or otherwise engaging. And monetary saving in terms of money itself is around 9,500 crores, and also encouraged for the investment of about 24,000 crores of rupees. So it has a huge impact. Now, the 8.67 million tons of oil equivalent in a number doesn't stand much to, but you keep in a context. This is almost the total, this is equal to almost the total energy consumption of a country like Costa Rica. So it is a huge contribution in the energy security or energy conservation and the global cause of climate change. And we have the second cycle from 16 to 19, and that has resulted further about 14.8 million tons of oil. And putting this number into context, this is about almost equal to the total energy consumption of a country like Sri Lanka. So a lot of benefits from this. Others are numbers you can see in the picture. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that we have a lot of opportunity in the efficiency space, and we can contribute, which has a very short gestation period, payback periods, and that is how these industries, in a span of say 2012 it started, and now we are into 2021. So just in a matter of 7, 8, 10 years, we could save around 20 to 23 million tons of oil equivalent. So that is the contribution that is coming from. I think I would not get into the details of this. I'll go to the next slide. So this is the picture that Honorable Minister of State for Uniform in Charge, Shri R.K. Singh ji, launching Energy Efficiency Certificate Trading Market in India. So we are few countries in the world that we have such a mechanism where energy efficiency certificate or the unit can be traded on a platform regulated by Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. So where this is the mechanism that in India we have 2 power exchanges, and where this trading happens, and there is a record keeper registry. But what happens if you see on the right side of yours, the units under pad, they are either buyers or the seller. So sellers are those who have overperformed beyond their regulated targets that are given for them to improve energy efficiency. Buyers are those who are falling shortfall. So they compensate by buying these certificates. So this happens at the power exchange. You have certain period of time. They put the sell bid, they put the buy bid, and exchange does its own method of discovering the price of the buy and sell bid, and then the results are declared and transactions happen. So may not get into the details, but that is the mechanism that we already have in India, and it has gone through 1 round. For the second cycle, we are preparing, and maybe in the end of July or August, we will start for the second cycle of PAT, where we would do the same exercise of trading of certificates. So in the transport sector, India also has efficiency measures for corporate CAFE standards for passenger cars are there, fuel efficiency norms for heavy duty vehicles, buses, trucks, and efficiency norms are considered for the tractors that has been under discussion or under process. And we are also preparing for the efficiency standards or the standards for the tires. So in the transport space also the efficiency aspects being taken care so that we can have a lessening or the efficient use of resources that the transport sector uses. So the big picture is that the energy efficiency, you can say saving opportunities, you would see mostly in the industrial space, the yellow space, and then the residential, you can say in the buildings. And it has also been now told that the next industry would be the building, in the sense, in terms of energy consumption, the building would be consuming huge amount, including the commercial and domestic. So we would have to see a lot of, aspects how our buildings can be in the commercial as well as in the residential space. How can we make more efficient? Then the other areas in the agriculture, municipalities, and transport, and how can we improve upon those areas. So in the nutshell, I am just giving the 18-19 numbers of the energy efficiency's contribution. So from the electrical energy saving, it has saved around 136 billion units. And if you multiply that with 5 rupees per unit, the saving is, you can say, around 65,000 crores. So such is a huge saving from these interventions of energy efficiency, and that our country has resorted into. And the equivalent emission reduction is about 110. And if you see in the thermal energy saving, it's about 12 million tons of oil equivalent. Cost from that is coming out around 22,000 crores. And the total, if you see in the orange box, the total cost saving is about 89,861 crores. So huge monetary saving as well as the saving, contribution towards the climate change, avoiding of one of the GHG, that is CO2 from energy related activity. So I think that is all from my side. So I will stop here, and I would be happy to take question on my presentation. Thank you. Yeah, I think I will just Professor, I will show this slide to enjoy all the audience here.
Yeah. By that time, people will compile their questions.
Yeah,
okay.
That is true. So just to remind ourselves that this is the kind of a scenario someone has put. So in the midst of challenges that we have currently, for which we have a capacity to contain, we can demarcate containment zones and break the chain of transmission. But then behind that, we have even bigger waves that are coming. So we are really, need to be prepared for not only for this challenge, but for the challenges that are coming ahead. So thank you.
Yes, Anand. Yes, Anand Tembulkar, could you raise your question?
Sir, actually, this hand raising is unintentional. Sorry for that.
Okay. Then Harjan Das sir. Das sir. SP Maher.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon.
So I am SP Meher from Arjafad Institute of Technology. So this is a very good presentation about energy saving. So you have given that or you have explained that the energy saving we are having a star rating for issue, and also in lighting sector it is replaced by LED. But one sector is there which is also very much consuming electricity, that is heating sector. So electrical heating, ordinary heaters, room heaters, radiators, so many heaters are being used. So whether at present there is a provision of star rating or any such replacement for saving of energy from heating sector.
Yes, Dr. Ashok. Dr. Ashok, could you hear? So he was not busy.
Sorry, I got it. Thank you, Meher Saab. I think I remember you when I was also in.
Yes, I remember. But since since that you are here, we have worked here for 2 years. So by faith and by employer.
Thank you for the question.
I remember you, okay.
Thank you for the question, and I think that's a very good question. And BE is also looking at the heaters. That also we will come out with a voluntary scheme for the heater. So currently we are looking at assessing the market and the technical parameters, how we can regulate. So certainly heaters would be appliances to be labeled. Sure, definitely.
And sir, one more thing around these fans nowadays, BLDC fans are coming. They are highly energy efficient. So is there any policy of the government so that people can switch over? So some sort of subsidy or some financial assistance should be given so that overall electricity demand can be reduced by replacing the earlier fans with the BLDC fans.
Not as such a subsidy program, but what we, the government of India or the Bureau has been propagating the energy efficiency on the ground, that the efficiency itself is a paying exercise.
Yeah.
So the government is of the opinion that our job is to inform the people that BLDC consumes only 28 watt or 32 watt. Then people will make their own calculation and they will adopt to, changing from that 80 or 90 watt current ceiling fan. So that is
sometimes the initial replacement cost is all of a sudden high.
True.
So if some in this form subsidy form is provided or some promotional scheme is there, like NDPL is doing, but that is very little. I think they are giving some facilities to these manufacturers and they are giving at little lower prices.
Yeah. Some schools have that program, so they are also encouraging that, definitely. So currently, no, but certainly this has a very good promise that, initial kind of a uptake can be, motivated by certain incentives.
Yeah, similar to LED, because a lot of saving we have through the promotion of LED, and this can also contribute. Any other question from the audience? Last question.
No, sir, there are two things basically. Siddharth had asked and Professor Srinivasan sir also have raised the hand. Let me first, yes, Professor Srinivasan sir, you will please. You have raised the hands.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. My question is to Dr. Ashok Kumar. Sir, we have talked about the spatial heating system and the energy conservation. Actually, the spatial heating, there is a lot of option for us to get it converted to a renewable energy. One of my very recent work is to store the heat energy during the daytime using the phase change material, especially using the solar concentrating trough-based collectors. So the solid will become liquid, and then probably we can use that hot liquid for the spatial heating. But there many people have also done research in the area of aging material embedded walls. But that needs completely new construction. But the new concept is, can we use PCM to store the energy during daytime, release it during night time. So this has not been explored. So my question is there any research funding opportunities available by DE or renewable energy, which we could try figuring out whether it can be a commercial implementable idea? So I just want to, because it's one of the very important areas where one of the participants asked the question. And altogether, can we migrate from electricity-based heating to that of solar-based heating using the PC? So that's my question.
Thank you, professors. I think very good question. Professor, just to let you know that the Bureau has developed a tool called Eco Nivas Samhita, and this is at the Bureau's website, where this tool is trying to capture the benefits of design, benefits of orientation, benefits of natural draft and others. So you may like to see if there are other opportunities of foam wall or something that can incorporate it in those. So we can certainly take your inputs to integrate that as also as a part of the tool. So however, we have a tool that we would certainly request you to go through that, and we would be happy to also get in touch and discuss further to improve if there is a scope of improvement in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will keep in touch with you, sir, to take this forwards.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next quick question from Hitesh, Mr. Hitesh.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, you can.
Thank you for your informative session. Sir, similar to this heating and ventilation, another section is the cooling section. So I haven't found any initiative or promotion from either AICT or this BEE for solar cooling technology at domestic level. So can you give some idea about this?
Yes, solar based cooling so far we are not currently tackling, but there is a larger India Cooling Action Plan, which is steered by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, in which BE also participates. So in that, I am not very sure whether that specific aspect is taken into, but that the cooling action plan has most of the possible interventions is being looked into. So that much I can say, but certainly it's a solar-based cooling. Currently we are not yet tackling. So we have other broader or simpler processes.
It's a consume more than 30%, whether it's a household or industrial. The energy consumption by cooling technology. This is a larger field to think for the energy efficiency.
Yeah, I think that there are the conventional technologies of using whatever the conventional refrigerant is, or the fan or whatever. These are mostly currently, but of course if that promise takes us, so certainly I think there will be opportunity in the times to come to look into those areas further than that.
And so I will say if your BE side some small project or funding from your end for domestic your small solar cooler, so it will help for everyone to develop a new technology.
We can, if there is a credible proposal, something that we would like to certainly like to see. And B is definitely supporting R&D is very small. The mandate for R&D is like a ministry, DSP and other places. So we can certainly supplement or some kind of incentivize or initial some seed exercise that we can do. Yeah. But certainly the promise is there and we should look at it. Thank you.
Mr. Siddhartha, still you are interested to ask the question quick? If you are there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, quickly you can go.
Thank you so much.
Last question in this session. Dear participants, please. Yeah, you are audible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. May I ask once available?
Yeah. Siddhartha, continue, please, quickly.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Thank you for the wonderful session. I'm interested to know. I am interested to know what other emission control trading mechanisms are in place. I got to understand that trading is one such. What other GHG emissions are also expected to using this kind of trading mechanism?
Yes, sir, you may mute your mic.
Sorry, Mr. Siddharth, I a lot of calls. Yeah, I was, the question is, see, our mechanism is where energy saving certificate. So denomination is energy based. So there are several carbon based markets. in European Commission, in European Union, there is a ETS, emission trading system that where the carbon denominated instruments are traded, and that has been in for a long time. Korea has developed their carbon trading mechanism. China has also developed. Some other countries, I think South Africa is in process. So there is to some extent, if you remember the earlier CDM project, CDM regime under the Kyoto Protocol was a carbon market where, this whatever savings in what is called the CERs, I'm forgetting the number, but the market has been there, so market is there. Ours is a unique in the sense that we are trading in the form of energy certificate.
Understood, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insight.
Yeah, any other question? Because of non-hydrocarbon based fuels, the energy trading energy certificate will be much more useful. The carbon credit is useful for only hydrocarbon based technologies. Now we are switching over to so many other greener technology, but still energy efficiency is requirement.
Yeah, we can count on energy.
Yeah.
Market, yeah.
So in future, this energy certification will be much more useful. Any other question? Any participants?
Probably Das sir has also raised the hand.
Yeah, last here also I called him, but he didn't respond at the time. Arjun Das sir? Okay, probably there are no questions, so we may thank Dr. Ashok